Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of How Did We Not Know That? I'm Nat,
I'm Jack.
and we're back with season two.
Woo!
Exciting, so exciting. Yeah, it's season two. This season, we're going to be talking about world history. So, we have a lot of fun and exciting topics coming your way. So, today, Jack, I actually don't know what you're going to talk about
I'm going
today.
to talk about Ireland for our Irish viewers who are so dedicated. We see you.
Wow, shout out to our Irish viewers.
Yeah. So actually, I'm going to talk about, let's just get right into it. Happy season 2. Missed you guys. We're really excited. So, Nat, did you know that Ireland is actually split?
Isn't it like northern, southern Ireland? But I honestly like I hear about like issues going on with North and South Ireland today, but I don't know the history behind it.
Yeah,
Um,
me neither. I never knew.
issue.
Yeah, I knew that actually, no, I really didn't know much. I heard that like Ireland was part of the UK and it wasn't part of the UK, and then I wasn't sure what was going on there. And so actually, Ireland like is an island, like the actual just like the name of the island is called Ireland. And that's an island for our viewers who are like not familiar of the location of Ireland. It's an island that's off Western Europe and it's in the Atlantic Sea, so it's like northwest from Europe. Like if
Oh,
you're looking at Europe, it's like the northwest section. It's not in like
yeah. Is it closest to England? Like, is it like right off the coast, or is it pretty?
yeah, it's like right off the coast of England.
Okay.
hmm And yeah, so that island is split into two parts, with the south being called Ireland, like what we formerly know as Ireland or the Republic of Ireland, and then the north is Northern Ireland, and it's actually part of the UK.
Okay.
Yeah. So then records of like the island of Ireland date back to forever, like 10,000 AD, prehistoric times. There's records, and then there like it's very well recorded everything that happened in Ireland. So we're actually going to start in 500 BC with the arrival of Celts. So around 500 BC, people immigrated to Ireland, and that group of people were called Celtic people. It was like Celtic heritage, and that later became known as the dominant Irish ethnic group.
Okay.
And so the religion well, actually, do you know why like Ireland split? Can you take a guess?
Isn't it like one half of it they're Protestants and then the other half is like Catholic?
Yeah, literally. So it's a
Which one is which?
yeah, okay, we'll talk about it. It's really interesting. But yeah, no, basically it's like a religious difference, and we're going to go back, but the Celts that like settled Ireland had religious beliefs that were not the same as the main world. And so anytime that you have differing like beliefs, at least back then, from like the dominant religions, you're called pagan. So that religion that Celtics practiced was called paganism.
Okay.
And it wasn't until the 5th century, so that's 400 BC, when a 16-year-old boy from Roman Britain was kidnapped. And Roman Britain is not like England, it's like another, I can't really describe it that well, but he's kidnapped from like a different area, the 16-year-old boy. This is just like a fun fact. And he's taken to Ireland as a slave, and then he escapes Ireland and he goes and like studies Catholicism. So the major religion at the time is Catholicism, at least
Mm.
like that form of Christianity. There's like Judaism. I know you're not religious, so I'm gonna try to break it down.
No, yeah, I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah.
so like basically, okay, rough religious like religion history lesson. There's like Judaism, and Judaism is like Jewish, and then Jesus, who is I don't know if anyone's heard of Jesus Christ. He's like the head of Christianity, but Jesus was originally a Jew, so he
Yeah.
practiced Judaism. And then when Jesus was he became known as the Son of God. in the eyes of Christians, and he died for our sins and everything. And so Jesus then, like, if you believe that Jesus is like the coming of Christ, then that is Christianity. So you believe in Jesus Christ, you believe in like God and everything. Does that make sense? I feel like I need to bring a whiteboard out here and like sketch it out.
Like draw lines. So like the difference, like the main difference between Judaism and Christianity is that Christians believe that Jesus is the Son of God, but Judaism doesn't necessarily believe that he's the Son of God.
Yeah, they don't. They believe he's like a guy, but like not that he was like the coming of Christ or anything.
Okay.
I hope that's right. I'm gonna fact check myself. But yeah. So anyway, so Jesus forms this branch. It's Christianity, and like the biggest first branch of Christianity is actually Catholicism. So that's the Roman Catholic faith. And that was the only form of Christianity back then. So you're like, it's Catholic. You're like,
okay,
you're Catholic. If you believe in Jesus Christ and like God, you would be a Catholic. So, the boy flees, and he's Catholic, and then he comes back to Ireland to convert the Irish to Christianity, because again, the Irish at this time, Celtic heritage was paganism, and paganism was a religion. And so he converts the Irish to Christianity, specifically Catholicism, and that boy later becomes known as the patron saint of Ireland, aka Saint Patrick. So that's why we have Saint Patrick's Day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's what that's about. And then the big quote with Saint Patrick is that he's credited with driving the snakes out of Ireland. And that's a metaphor because Ireland never had snakes. The snakes are a metaphor for pagans. So long story short, Ireland turned completely Catholic by about 400 AD. And Ireland and England during this time are all Catholic. And that lasts for centuries. And eventually we hit the 16th century, and then something big happens with religion. And do you remember what that was?
I'm guessing that there's like a division. Oh, doesn't have to do with like popes. There's 2 popes. Am I thinking of?
Well,
no.
Yeah, tell me what you're thinking with the popes.
Isn't there like a division in Christianity? So like there's Catholics and then like a new division.
Yeah, there weren't popes, but it's you're right that there's a division in Christianity. So there is a man called Martin Luther, and he was a monk, and he posted like a bunch of complaints about the Catholic Church on a door, I believe the story goes. And that was when, and then he broke off from Catholicism and formed his own branch of Christianity called Lutheranism. And so that's one break off of Catholicism. And then also King Henry VIII wanted a divorce from his wife. And in Catholicism, you're not allowed to get a divorce. I mean, nowadays you can if it's a very serious issue like abuse or anything, you can get a divorce. But I think he wanted it because his wife was not birthing boys. So he wanted a divorce, and the Pope would not allow it. So he broke off from he created his own religion so he could get a divorce, and it was like another branch of Christianity. And so it's Anglican, I believe, is that religion, now started by King Henry VIII. So the main thing to get from that is that we now have these other branches of Christianity. So anything that's not Catholic is known as Protestant. So that includes Baptist, that includes what other is there? Yeah, did I write them down? Yeah, like Lutheranism, Anglican, Baptist, Presbyterian, all these Christian terms that you may or may not have heard of. All those branches are known as Protestant branches, and then Catholicism is its own branch.
Okay.
Yeah, Catholicism was the main one, and then everyone else broke off from Catholicism.
So, okay, so just to clarify, so Christianity, and then there's like it splits up into 2 groups, Catholic, Protestant. And then with Protestant, there's like all these other branches.
Yeah, which I don't know. I like to think of it as like Christianity. Okay, this is just me being picky, and it's probably because I'm Catholic. But like, I think it's like Christianity and Catholicism is like one branch is Catholicism, right? So like like Judaism, Christianity, right?
Yeah.
Judaism, then we get Christianity, and then from Christianity we get Catholicism, and then under Catholicism it breaks out. No, your example's probably better. That like out of Christianity breaks these other ones, but they really broke off from Catholicism.
Yeah, like chronologically it goes Catholic to Catholicism to all the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
But
But yeah, they broke off. So that's huge. So basically now, England, which is, they had the King of England, everything. England's now Protestant, and maybe not everyone's Protestant yet, but now there's like a push for you to be Protestant in England because that's like the king's religion, and so now you're under the king and you follow the king's form of Christianity.
okay.
So then we will go into, so that's important to note is that remember, Ireland's Catholic and England was Catholic, but now England has broken off into these little forms of Christianity called or like Protestantism, we'll call it Protestants.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
now to talk about like the actual border in Ireland, we have to start with the 17th century. So there's something called the Plantations of Ulster in the 17th century. So that's when the border starts to begin. Since the 12th century, British had been present in Ireland. Like they're just doing trade, they're hanging out in Ireland anyways. And the English were doing like their regular oppressive practices while they're present. Like they're always doing this. I feel like England just has a checklist, like go to a new place, forbid marriage between the locals, ban speaking their language. So they did all of that when they came to Ireland, and they're just living on the coast too. It's like one or two people trying to do this whole thing to like an entire country. And yeah, they banned Gaelic Irish, which is actually like native language of Irish people is Gaelic. Ulster is a province in Ireland, and it's the most Gaelic Irish province in Ireland. And basically there was a war between Protestant English and the Catholic lords in that area. And the Protestant English ended up defeating the Irish Catholics.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the Irish Catholic lords in that area fled, and they left behind the land. So the Protestant settlers just took over that land, and those Protestant settlers were from Scotland and England, and they just settled in Ulster. So after that war was fought, okay, does that make sense? You look confused.
No, but so wait, this is Ulster. Ulster is in the south, or you said it was east? Where? No, Dublin.
So okay, the English come and they're like, they settle in this area known as the Pale, and like they didn't expand on that, but the Pale is like on the east coast, so that's just like they've arrived from like trade stuff.
Okay.
And then Ulster is, oh, I don't even have my world map, but Ulster Ulster is like a province in the north, like northeast.
Okay.
Yeah, and then right.
It's Protestant in the north.
It's not Protestant yet. There's like English settlers, and then Ulster was still Catholic, Irish Catholic, but you have all these English Protestants that are settling there. And then they had this war between them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the English are like kind of pushing them around and like taking land and trying to ban these things and enforce these laws. And so they have a war, and then the Irish Catholics lose the war, and then they flee the area, and the English Protestants just take over the area and like claim it as theirs, right?
They're fleeing the north area, so they're going to the south.
Okay, that's not clear. So they did flee, but I think something said that they flew.
Fled, I think.
They fled. Yes. They fled to England, or they fled to the south. Either way, long story short, they like left the area. Like they're gone. Yeah. So then that's when they took over, the Protestant English take over. And then, okay. So now there's a lot of Protestants in that area of Ulster.
Mm-hmm.
So although and it's a province, right? So the province is quite big. But although there are still some native Irish Catholics in the area, now the province is now dominated by Protestants, and the Protestants are all loyal to the British crown.
Okay.
So then we go to 1641, and we have something called the Irish Confederate Wars. So it's a war between Ireland, Scotland, and England. And I don't know if this is clear, I kind of mentioned it, but the Protestant settlers were actually Scottish and English.
Okay.
So keep that in mind too. It's really the Irish are still Catholic, and I don't know the history of Scotland, but it's just from history, it was Scotland and England together that were the Protestant invaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it basically 1641 Irish Confederate Wars between Ireland, Scotland, and England. And it's really Scotland and England together against Ireland. So Ireland tries to push back against the anti-Catholic Protestant countries, Scotland and
Yeah.
England. So the English end up winning that as well again. And now the Catholic majority Ireland is run by a Protestant minority.
Okay.
Sounds a lot like the States.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we'll go to 1798. There's something known as the Irish Rebellion. So this was inspired by the French and American revolutions, and it was an uprising of the Irish against British rule in Ireland.
Wow.
So then the French tried to help the Irish in the uprising, and again, the uprising was suppressed by the British crown, so the Irish lost. It was really, really violent too. So they lost 10,000 to 30,000 lives.
Wow. That's a lot. And I'm sure like the population is like really tiny at the time.
Yeah. So then that happens in 1781. Again, it's still Protestant English rule Ireland. And then we have the Act of Union in 1800s. So in the year 1800, the United Kingdom, which at the time just consisted of England and Scotland, because I don't know, are you familiar with like the history of the UK?
No, I say like isn't just the UK, Scotland, part of Ireland, and then Wales? Is Wales in the UK?
Yeah, it's like,
Okay.
is England not in? No, England is okay.
England. Yeah, it's like England, Scotland, part of Ireland, and then Wales.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was either, but like when I was doing research, they showed the animation of each part joining the UK. So it was England, and then the first country to join England and form the UK was Scotland. So
Gotcha.
so 1800s, UK has been formed, and now they're concerned that Ireland is going to break off and join with France in fighting against the British again, because this is only 2 years after the Irish Rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
So because of this fear, the UK absorbs Ireland into them as well in the Act of Union 1800 or 1801. It's called both. So there's a lot of opposition to this, obviously.
Yeah.
And throughout the 1800s, there was a rise in violent rebellions to oppose it and demand self-governing.
Wow. Okay, so this is like, sorry, I'm like just trying to like think about it. This is like a really big deal because at this time, like Britain has colonies all over the world, but then that's just considered like the British Empire. But the fact that Ireland was acquired into the United Kingdom, that's saying like you're not just a colony, you're like
One of us.
you're the United Kingdom. So, right, like that's a lot more significant than just having them as a part of the empire, right?
Yeah. Well, how did the empires work though? Because like even though they didn't absorb them into the UK, it's still like territory and rule.
I think that's just known as like Great Britain then, right? Like, because there's so many terms. Oh my God, it's like United Kingdom, Great Britain, and then England. England is just like the country. I think Great Britain is like the whole British Empire, all the colonies they have, and then the United Kingdom is just like those few
Oh,
that they're like, okay, but this is like,
that makes so much more sense. Okay, I was using England, UK, and Great Britain all interchangeably, but that makes so much sense because Great Britain is like the great, like everything, and then Kingdom is like this.
Check this, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah, I'll look into that too. I never knew. I just called them all the same thing. Okay, well, yeah, it's a pretty big deal. So Ireland is now part of the UK,
Okay.
and yeah, they're not having a good time. They don't like it. And well, I shouldn't say that. Northern Ireland's having a ball. Ulster, the Protestant English, and then the rest of Ireland not really liking it. So then in 1920, the official border happens.
Oh,
So under the Government of Ireland Act, the British government made an attempt to reconcile the two demands of both areas of Ireland because north part of Ireland, which is Ulster, well, not just Ulster, but the north part of Ireland is like Protestant and the south part is Catholic. And there's all these fights and uprisings and rebellions and civil wars trying to like push for independent rule. So to reconcile the demands, they create a partition between the parts of Ireland. So the Irish nationalist, which is known as Southern Ireland, demands for the separation of Ireland from Britain. So they don't want to be a part of the UK. They don't want to be associated with Britain. Like they just want to be Ireland. And then the Unionist, which is the northern part of Ireland, demands to remain part of the United Kingdom. So they want to be a part of the UK. They like it, and they're in conflict.
okay. Oh wait, okay, I have two questions really quick.
Mhm.
Okay, first, this is like a stupid question. This partition, is it just like invisible? Is there like a physical structure that's actually like, is there a wall or like a fence or something, or is it just like,
No. So, uh, you're asking a good question. There's not, I'm sure there's like a gate maybe, but it's not like a physical wall yet. But in Northern Ireland, which I'll get to later, is like there's actually walls between Protestant and Catholics. Like they're called peace walls, but they literally build them separating the neighborhoods because there's so much violence. Like it's really bad.
oh,
um and then but between like the partition that we're talking about where there's an official border now, I don't know if they built an actual wall for that.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, probably, yeah. I'm guessing there's not like a, yeah, along the entire border, but probably around parts.
Well,
But
maybe because it's not a huge island. So,
that's true. It
and
is,
if they hate each other that much, like,
yeah, if it gets that violent, then yeah. And then, okay, like this, my second, it's mostly like just a remark, but like I guess, so like in 1920, this is like after World War One. So like the whole, everyone in Ireland probably had to fight World War One under the British flag. So I'm sure that's like kind of what caused like the, this is what really like flared the argument into like people actually like declaring themselves as like unionists versus nationalists, right? Am I, that's just like a,
no, you are literally spot on. Like you really know your history because that's exactly like what happened. Okay, just gonna go right into it. So in 1922, there was the Irish Free State Constitution Act, and that established that Ireland was a free state but a dominion of the British Commonwealth. So that is like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. They're their own country, but they also, the queen is technically their queen too.
yeah, okay.
I don't know how it works because we're American.
Of like US territories, like we talked about in our mini-sodes where they have their own local governments, but then they're under the ultimate jurisdiction of the president of the United States. Kind of similar.
Yes.
But yeah.
True, true, true. Okay. And so yeah, Ireland becomes one of those. In this treaty, or is it a treaty? In the Irish Free State Constitution Act, they gave the north part of Ireland a clause that allowed them to opt out of the agreement and stay part of the UK. And they took that immediately. Like they were, yes, opt me out. I don't want to be like, I want to be part of the UK. So now there are two British parliaments because of this. There's one in Dublin for the south, and then there's one in Belfast for the north. And some of the people in the South are okay with the treaty because it's they're an Irish free state, so they're like, wow, like we're free, we're Irish, we're like independent. And other people are against the treaty because they're like, no, we're still under the British crown. We're like formally a territory. You know, like we don't like it. It's not good enough. We want to be fully independent. So
Mm-hmm.
that leads to a civil war. Oh, also too. So, and also people who are anti-treaty felt that no, we're also entitled to the whole country of Ireland, not just a part of it. Like Northern Ireland is ours as well.
Oh, so that's okay. So as the nationalists, they're not just like, oh, like Southern Ireland will secede from like the UK, like we'll be our own thing. They want everyone in the whole island to.
Yeah. So I mean, because it that right, the South has like split ideas too, right? Some of the South people are like, it's cool, it's fine, like everything's fine, and then like we're free. And the other part is like, no, we get all of it. I'm sure within that there's arguments too, like, no, maybe we don't get all of it, but like, no, we don't want to be a part of like a free state anyways. It should just be independent. So obviously there's differing opinions on the treaty.
Gotcha.
But that disagreement led to a civil war in the South, which was pro and anti-treaty. The pro-treaty side wins and solidifies the Irish Free State as British Dominion. So then in 1937, they held a vote in, I think, South Ireland. So in 1937, a vote was held for a new constitution to remove all British ties from Ireland. And 56% of people who voted in that were in favor of the new constitution and renaming the country to Ireland, or the Republic of Ireland, to differentiate itself from the island Ireland. And so South of Ireland is all cool. They're like, yeah, let's remove like all British ties. And because they removed their British ties from it, or because like you mentioned the war, right? And like how they had to fight under the crown. So after this constitution passed, Ireland's now its own country, and they used that to exercise their right to remain neutral in World War II.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So anyways, South Ireland is peachy keen. It's just Ireland now. And now we go to Northern Ireland, because remember, there are still Irish Catholics in Northern Ireland. So then we enter a time period known as the Troubles. So this started in 1969, and it was like a lot of violence in Northern Ireland. In 1969, violence broke out in Northern Ireland because although a majority of Northern Ireland is Protestant, there is still a minority of Irish Catholics and nationalists. So the Catholic minority, surprise, surprise, not really, it's not a surprise, they were subjected to discrimination when it came to employment, housing, and education, like routine British oppression. We know the story as Americans. And the result of that was violent conflict for 3 decades between the Irish and the British Catholics and Protestants.
Wow, 3 decades.
Oh yeah, it was very bad. And like we just said a little earlier, the like physical, it was so bad that physical walls got put up between neighborhoods, because separating Catholics and Protestants, because the violence was very bad. It was actually, quote unquote, spoken about as mild warfare. Like that's how bad it was. Maybe not like a full-on war, but like bullets are going off and everything.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's bad.
Actually, yeah. Okay, this is just like a side note, but I was gonna take a class on terrorism at OSU, and I was like reading the description, and it was like focusing on Ireland, and I remember reading it, being like, "What, terrorism in Ireland?" And now I get it, but it's like just not something you would think of, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I was surprised because I was like, I wonder why Ireland's separate, and it's a big deal. This has lasted since like the English have come to Ireland. They've been having this issue, right?
Yeah.
It's still ongoing. So that, the violence lasts until 1995. So it's literally like 25 years long, and 3,500 people lose their lives.
Wow.
So to end the Troubles, the Troubles was resolved through the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, also known as the Belfast Agreement.
Mm.
And Ireland, okay, so what it said in this like agreement was that Ireland has to remove their claim over Northern Ireland because their constitution was like, yeah, we're independent and we get all of Ireland. And so that's why there's a lot of conflict too, because the nationalists are like, no, like this is all Ireland. And then the Protestants are like, no, like we're the UK, you know.
Wow.
And so Ireland has to remove their claim over Northern Ireland in the constitution. And the British and Irish governments agreed that if the time comes that the majority of Northern Ireland ever wants to break off and become independent or rejoin Southern Ireland, then it will be allowed to do so, like peacefully.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. It's a good resolution. Granted, I don't know if that's ever going to happen since the majority is Protestant.
Yeah.
Um, so basically, Northern Ireland is not going to become a part of Ireland until a majority decide to, and it has kept the peace so far between the regions. There's still mild violence and conflict between the two, but it's not as bad as it was during the Troubles era.
Okay. Also, okay, I don't know if you're like about to talk about this, but are you gonna talk about Brexit at any point?
That's a good question. I had a feeling you're going to ask about Brexit. Do you have questions on it?
Yeah, because I'm just confused because I know there was a lot of confusion when England originally voted um to remove themselves from the European Union, right? Because then it was like, oh, Northern Ireland go with them, and then like would Scotland go with them? And then I think in like the rest of the UK, like is it just England or is it all of the UK? Um, and then I think, oh, I would fact check this, but I think also like Scotland, they had a vote to see if they wanted to remove themselves from the UK, but then it was like 55 to like 45%, but basically they voted to stay in the UK. So I think they're no longer part of the European Union, but honestly, I don't know. Brexit is very confusing, and Europe is really not like my forte.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I tried to look a little into Brexit with it because I didn't understand what that was about. But what I got from the research was, yeah, like England wanted to remove themselves from the European, or UK. The UK wanted to remove themselves from the European Union. And the main concerns with that with Ireland is because like right now it's a soft border between Northern Ireland and Southern Ireland, but if
Yeah.
they were to leave, that's a hard border now because it's not just a border between Ireland and the UK, it's a border between like the EU and
Yeah,
then this country that's not a part of it.
you would need a visa, right? To like go, because like you're not like if you have a EU visa, then you could just travel freely to any EU country. But if there's a hard border there, half of it is in the EU, half of it isn't. Like, yeah, then you would, I mean, I don't know if that actually happened, but like, yeah, you're right. Like immigration would be like restricted or like it'd be filtered. Also, don't they have different currencies? Like
Yeah,
North
the EU has the same currencies but then again, do they? We have to ask a European friend because I'm pretty sure isn't Sweden in the EU? They are, aren't they?
I don't think so actually.
Oh,
Well,
okay, never mind then. Because they don't use like the same. Do they use the pound in the EU?
wait, I'm gonna look up Ireland currency, and then I'm gonna look up who's in the EU. Wait,
Just like is Sweden? Let me see.
okay, sorry, I think you cut out for a second. Sorry, European Union country.
Yeah, Sweden doesn't. But
Um,
Sweden doesn't use the same currency.
what is language? Okay, so the Republic of Ireland is the euro, and then Northern Ireland they use the British pound.
Did the UK already split?
Yeah, didn't Brexit like already happen? Yeah, so
Did UK leave the EU?
I think
Oh
so.
no, it says the UK has left the EU and the transition period after Brexit comes to an end this year in January 2021.
Oh. Then why are they?
Wow, so I wonder what's going on with Ireland. To our
Why?
Irish viewers, please let us know what's up. Send us a message at howdidwenotknowthat@gmail.com.
let us know how you're doing and what's going on over there.
What's it like? Do you need a visa to go to Northern Ireland?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Wow.
that was a good question. And basically, yeah, I talked about, signs of the conflict can still be seen today, especially in Belfast. And there are physical walls separating the communities, and there's still occasional violence. But the government has a goal to remove all of these so-called peace walls by 2023.
Wow. Okay, interesting. I also, okay, just another remark I was just like thinking about. I wonder for the Brexit vote, I'd be really interested to see what the breakdown was, like what each region and like what each like country within the UK like voted for. Like I wonder if like Ireland voted like strongly in favor or against it compared to like, yeah, I wonder if like the vote percentages like differed between like England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales. That'd be really interesting because
Yeah, let me see. I'll see if it breaks down. Yeah, it does break down. Okay, so wow, this is so interesting. I never understood it, and now I'm like, okay, this is what's going on. So England, wow, it was very close. Well, okay, Scotland. But basically, so England voted to leave by 53%.
uh-huh.
So close.
So close.
Northern Ireland voted to stay by 55%. Is
Okay.
super close as well. Scotland voted to stay for 62%. And
Okay.
then Wales voted to leave for 52%.
Wow, so it's really close. All of wow, those like aren't really big margins, you know?
Yeah, it's very close. Just Scotland's like, okay, it's pretty clear you want to stay, but they lost still because most people wanted to leave.
After that, then they had to vote like, oh, should we stay in the UK? And then they were like, yeah, let's stay in the UK. But then that vote was also like very slim.
Yeah,
So
wow, that's so interesting.
yeah, I like never realized how
Yeah,
interesting the history of the UK was.
the history of the UK is a lot. There's a
Honestly,
lot of stuff.
like I have a bias towards European history, but I'm gonna like challenge myself in season 2 to become more aware and more informed of the history of
No, that's nice. I'm not. Gutenberg Printing Press. I'm done. That was enough European history.
That's true, but I guess like okay, here's the thing: is like even when we talked about European history in like in the U.S. in history class in high school, like I feel like we didn't talk about this like just how the British came into Ireland and like how there's this huge division, and we didn't like talk about like minority voices within the UK. So I think
True. Also, that's really good to note because for our viewers who aren't aware, or even our American viewers, anytime you want to talk about racism in the States, there's always a white Irish person, Irish American person who says, look
yeah,
at how the Irish were treated. And this shows you right now, if you look into the history of Ireland, that the discrimination against Irish was not because they're white, it's because they were Catholic. So next time you hear someone say that, you can say, it's Catholics versus Protestants. Because for people who don't know about the history of the United States, if you missed season 1, the, I guess, biggest bullies in American history are the Protestant English that came over.
well, yeah, and like that's the whole thing is like even Irish Catholics in America were like discriminated against when they first came. Like you can't argue against that. There was a lot of discrimination. However, like yes, Irish Catholics in the US were paid less than than Protestant Christians in the US, but they were still paid more than people of color within the US. And then once Irish Catholics started unionizing, they did not include people of color in their union protests. And yeah, they like so
Right. There's intersectionality between oppressions, right? It's like Muslims who come to the States, especially from African countries, you're discriminated on religion, you're discriminated against by color, you're discriminated against by gender if you identify as transgender or you are female.
yeah, and
So,
like which country you're coming from, like which continent, like yeah, no, it's like there's a lot of different degrees and like various.
Layers, yeah. But yeah, that's the partition of Ireland.
Wow, that's really interesting. I really had no idea how intense their history was, so I'm really glad we learned about that. And now I gotta pay attention to what's going on in Ireland like today. I really know nothing about it. So yeah, thank you so much, Jack, for sharing this and for starting off season 2. I'm so excited for the rest of season 2.
Yes, of course. Yay!
Thank you, everyone. Bye.